Hey, welcome to the Good Life meditation for the 20th day of December, 2021. My name is Kurt. I do this every day to remember my objectives and principles, to think about how I did applying those in the last day and last night, and then forecast the day ahead and how I can utilize these to move forward in a productive way and make the day a worthwhile day. And there's Rudy. Hi, Rudy. Excuse me. Pardon me. So, yesterday was Sunday, and it was kind of on track. The only thing that really ambushed me was the anticipation of today and this week and the remainder of the month. And I saw that coming too. Um, it was a busy day. Yumiko and I had a nice breakfast together. It's interesting. This area is not like the other place we used to live, and we have to manage our expectations in this community. That is, Orange County is kind of like one of those glimmering lights in the world. For various reasons, it's also a very challenging place. So, I guess I should say that the place we went to for breakfast, I don't want to go there. I feel like gossip. So I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say that I have to manage my expectations, bringing the principle of real limits and real opportunity to bear. The real limit being Riverside County is not Orange County. The real opportunity then is to recognize that fact and embrace the community that I've chosen to live in, and not lament necessarily what what no longer is. I met a man at the park yesterday, the dog park yesterday, who point blank told me he was lonely. An old man with a Trump hat on. And he came right up to me. I was the only other person at the dog park. Came right up to me and introduced himself, held out his hand, which I, of course, gladly shook. We had a very pleasant conversation. And he had two funny little dogs. One of them would pee doing a handstand, literally standing on both front paws with its legs straight up in the air and his weenie sticking out backwards, peeing in a stream backwards. But it was interesting how he just basically told me that he was lonely. And so we had a nice talk. I wonder what it takes when you get that blank, point blank, telling strangers that you're lonely. He must be really lonely. I hope I see him again. We probably will see each other because I go to the dog park every day. So that was nice. I had a nice time. I enjoyed that. I also climbed a mountain with the dogs. That was good. Miko and I did. We totally cleaned the place from top to bottom yesterday. Did a great job. I was anxious yesterday. It's always lately about work, and so I didn't sleep well last night. Woke up about maybe 2:30 a.m. I get up at 4 a.m. So I woke at 2:30 a.m. It's a cold desert night, and laid there in bed, thinking about the objectives that I wanted to do today. Particularly last week I managed the big project that I'm working on. I managed that by producing a project proposal, laying out two options, all the pros and the cons, the assumptions, risks, etc., and laid those out. I usually give a recommendation. I didn't. Did I do that? I can't remember. Because it's in a funny position. I want to recommend the option that I don't want to recommend. But looking at reality, true limits and true opportunity, I know that option really won't work. So why would I recommend it? Even though it's the right path, it won't work. And there's not a way that I can make it work, not in this environment. Well, it's in draft. I sent it to the team to complete the review by the end of the day tomorrow. So I can just add the recommendation. Everybody's already on board with that recommendation. I just haven't formally said it so. It's funny. Recommending the path that I don't recommend, but doing so because there's no other way. No other viable way. So I woke up with that, thinking about that, and also thinking about the training plan that I need to do, which I think I'll change that into a project proposal to add to that's the way I'll manage it. And so I'll combine a training plan, a marketing plan, and a deployment plan. Assuming that senior management will accept the option that I recommend, I'll build it based on that. My goal is I want to be in a position come January, the start of the new year, to execute. It's very fast action. So anyway, I woke up at 2:30, and I knew I had an hour and a half of staring at the dark ceiling ahead of me, which is frustrating. But I knew my mind wouldn't go back to sleep. So I enlisted one of my new principles, the principle of that which must be born. Two principles, actually. I enlisted that one, and then I brought the other principle of hand on the tiller to bear, which I'm suspicious that these two principles are in fact the same principle, and that suspicion may be borne out by the fact that I actually enlisted both of them simultaneously. Maybe I should combine them into one, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. And this is what I was doing in my mind last night. You can see there's me on a boat, sailing ship, sailing towards some headlands in a relatively calm sea. And I've got my hand on the tiller and my arm, above my head, shielding the sun, looking forward. And I told myself, as I lay there in bed last night, hand on the tiller, Kurt, that which must be born, you have to bear this, whatever thing is on my mind about work. It's in the cargo hold, and I'm moving it forward in the wind, keeping my hand on the tiller. I guess that's where those two differ. The one is that which must be born is the cargo. It is what's being shipped. It's what we're carrying. And hand on the tiller is the mechanism to keep the boat in a straight course. That was yesterday. Wow, 8 minutes in. Let's do this. I have to do it fast. The Good Life Meditation. First, my 7 objectives. The first is to be always ready to die. Then, to make good and effective use of time. To do one thing at a time and do that thing slowly. To cultivate good emotional reactions. To perform good actions. To recognize true limits and true opportunities. And then to do just one thing at a time and to do that thing slowly. Okay, that was very curt and to the point. Now, my 30 principles. 1. The principle of war. To fight against what I think is true. To challenge myself. To disbelieve what I think is true. Always. To hold everything that I believe is true in tentative arms. 2. The principle of reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. To question what I believe and every proposal of truth that comes from anyone else. To die in doubt. Boy, have I labored this one on, huh? Laying it on heavy. I like the sound of that. To die in doubt. to take up my last breath, in confused uncertainty about the nature of the world, in reasonably confused uncertainty, right? Having laid bare the confused landscape of everything. I will probably consider it a failure if I die with some certitude. That would have been a settled life. Because I can't imagine how I could become settled. Because anything that I discover is true would be just a further outpost in the frontier of ignorance. If I'm settled, that means I've shut the gate. I'm not peeking over the top at the wilderness beyond, which howls into infinity. Next is the principle of the homunculus, the little mortal man who lives inside my head and who will die with me, utterly, completely. Then the Anchorhold, the place where the homunculus lives and dies. I like to picture it as a little rock in the ocean. Right now that rock is a cold place. It's chilly up there. The wind is blowing. It's a winter sea. Winter on its way here. It's here already. And the waters are churning, but not too bad. The tide is seemingly rising. Ooh, it's cold. Next is the home of good and evil. The place where I keep a catalog of what I propose is true. Emiko she left me a gift. I told her I wanted to buy a blanket to put over my bare legs. I like to wear shorts while I sit here. She left it sitting over there. That's sweet of her to do. I'll use it tomorrow. The next principle is the atomic principle. Did I cover purpose? Principle of purpose? Maybe I skipped that. The principle of purpose has 3 sub-principles: biology, virtue, and mission. It's my purpose to be a good husband and father, a citizen, a community member, family member, to my larger family, friend, wherever possible, to improve the well-being of others, particularly thinking creatures, and to execute my mission, which is to spread the good life at this point in my life. Now comes the atomic principle, the recognition that everything is bits and pieces, including me. And very soon I'll be dead, and probably my body will burn up in a fire, cremation. A lot of it, the moisture in me, all the water will turn into steam. A lot of what I am will turn into smoke and heat and gas. Some bits will be left over as bone and ash. The bones will be ground up in a little grinder, and all that will be put into a little container and given to my wife, who maybe she'll take me out to Siberia. Emily knows the way, and scatter me around the desert there. That would be nice. Maybe under the bridge. That would be nice. I wouldn't last long because the next flash flood would take me out into the open desert, which is fine. Actually, it sounds good. Then the winds will come. I'll make my way down into the dry playa, or is that right? The old alkali flats, and then the dry winds will come and blow me in a dust devil, scatter me into the air, back up into the deep water wilderness. That's just a fact. I don't know if that's how it's going to unfold, but I'm going to die very soon and be back to elemental particles, compounds, and then there will never be another instance of anything that's me. And no thoughts, no experience ever again. Each of us is a single lightning strike for a momentary flash. That's the atomic principle. I like the way that one came out. Next is the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. I used that one yesterday. I was walking the dogs and beginning to hike with them, and I saw people coming the other way on the trail, and they had big dogs off leash, roaming about. And I recognized that, well, I was a little upset. I was like, but then I realized that's what people do. They're hiking with big dogs. So I thought of a plan, and I picked up little Rudy and managed a little ollie, and we found a little detour off the trail where they couldn't see me, and I kind of hid around there, and I waited for them to come. And they did see me, and they put their dogs on the leash. But I waited for them. They went by, and after that, they went by. And instead of being upset that they caused, probably 3 to 5 minute detour, I enlisted my principles and said, this is the nature of hiking on a trail with dogs. People do that. And it's also, I tempered I tempered my emotions. I wasn't upset. I didn't even begin to get upset because I recognized that was the nature of things here. And then I used reason to figure out a good plan, namely to protect the little dog by holding him, and I knew that he wouldn't walk very well, so and then get Ollie off the trail. Anyway, I executed principle after principle, and moved us out of this way and avoided that whole situation. And I was even able to give a friendly one. One of the men caught my eye and gave him a friendly nod and a smile. So it went well. Look, how did I get to 17 minutes? I got to move on. Next is the principle of the pirate ride. The hypothesis that there is no free will. And I've been working hard on that yesterday. I made a video yesterday about inductive reasoning as I'm trying to make my way to the null hypothesis and discover where the null hypothesis lies with regard to this particular question. So I'm working on it. I'll continue to work on it. This is that war that I told you about, that war using reason against my own principles. I'm fighting hard against my own principle, the pirate ride. Next is maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. Then comes the social principle. We are social animals and we need each other. Like that old man yesterday telling me he was lonely. So he was reaching out to me. And I think I did the human thing and extending back. Not always the best thing, not always something that I'm good at, but I think I did it yesterday. Then comes the social principle. I know, public speaking. To use few words, deliberate words, carefully chosen words, and to not gossip. Then comes temperance and the sub-principles of suffering, because we suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. Simplicity, because a temperate life is a simple life. And apathy, the ability to recognize what is outside of our control and to not be troubled too much about those things. Okay, here's the two of the new principles. The first is the horror show. Life is, although not always, it is a lot of the time a horror show. I mean horror in the worst sense. There is horror going on. Ugh. And then the next principle after that is that which must be borne, which sometimes is the horror show. We have to bear it and work to do something about it. But it's really hard to do. You can't really do this too long. It doesn't work. Not as an adult, not as a reasonable adult. Then comes the Feast of Offal. The Feast of Offal is the giving up, the expressing of our frustration and upset into the world and soiling everybody around us. I'm really running out of time. I gotta move fast. Then comes distraction. We distract ourselves from something that I call the great indifference, which is the apparent emptiness of the universe. The fact that the universe doesn't seem to be even capable of care. We're really alone. All we have is one another. We distract ourselves with work and all the other things we do so we don't have to see that. Then comes these new principles are kind of messing up my routine. After that comes the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but try to be okay with every circumstance that I'm in. Then comes the path of wildness, the way into new life and through challenging situations, the forward progress that we make. Then comes the third new principle, which is the hand on the tiller, steady as she goes. I already talked about this one. Then comes the risk of avoiding risk, the deep and surface level risks of life, and the challenge of addressing both. Then comes sin and damnation, and the 7 sins of credulity, hope, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip, and the consequent damnation, damned life that we live if we indulge in those. And then complete oblivion, the suggestion that when we're dead, we're gone forever, as I mentioned already. And then the great life adventure, the centerpiece event of our lives, that helps to create our identity and mark us for who we are. Then the season of philosophy, which is the time to record what we've learned along the way. And then the bullseye aim, the recognition that we strive and usually don't quite hit the mark. Then the uphill climb. Life is an uphill climb. I also sometimes call it an open ocean swim through the waves. Thinking about that now with the ship analogy, this thing, right? Open ocean sail in this case. Then comes, I'm almost done. Oh yeah, arena and utility. Life is an arena for the execution of our principles in pursuit of our objectives. And then the last one is the nothing is enough. The striving towards less, a meaningful less, a substantive less. Okay, now, last thing I do is I forecast the day. Today's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but it's the type of challenge that is overcome by just jumping right in, right? So, I mean, the hardest part is going to be the next 2 hours. It's about 5 a.m. right now, and I start work at 7. Once I start work, I'll be in good shape. I'll sit down, send an email to my boss saying I'm starting my day. And I'll begin executing through the project plan, and I will do it. I can do it. I've done it before. I know what to do in this case. This is not unfamiliar territory to me. These are seas that I've crossed. It's just that it's hard, and it's work. So I'm gonna get to work. Damn it. Take care. Remember to be safe, but not too safe. Bye bye.